All right, here we go. Touré, welcome back to Vlad TV.
Thanks, buddy.
It's been some years.
I think this is our third time doing this.
I think it is. I think it is. But, we've been in contact the whole time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I just mean like doing one of these Vlad sit-downs.
Yeah, it's been a minute. But, I remember when I was going through some things, you reached out and, you helped counsel me through a few little roadblocks that I was dealing with. And, we're not going to say for what exactly, but
I respect that you were willing to listen.
Yeah.
Because, it's just human nature that if you have an idea, you stick with that idea. And new information does not make you change. It makes you drill down more into your idea.
Yeah.
And that you were willing to listen and enter the conversation in one place and truly hear and be moved to a different place, a different perspective. It was okay, well, that was cool. You know what I mean? You don't usually have that conversation where you talk to somebody and you're looking at it this way, you should look at it differently, and they go, oh yeah, you're right.
Well, I see where it comes from. If it's somebody that I know and I respect, and I know there's no ulterior motives
Sure.
in the conversation, then I'm willing to listen. And I try to avoid cognitive dissonance, where I get new information and then I try to work my original idea around that new information,
Which is natural.
Yeah.
It's natural.
Yeah, but I try to avoid doing that. So if I get new information and it does make sense, I try to internalize it. And when I'm wrong, I try to, accept the fact that I'm wrong. And if I have to publicly address that, then I try to publicly address it. Not everyone's always going to be happy with the way I address it, and that's okay. I'm not here to please everyone. I'm here to make sure that I can live with certain things myself. And if it feels a little off, then I'll address it. If I can live with it and it doesn't feel off, then I'll rock with it. And whoever feels a type of way will feel a type of way regardless.
For sure.
Yeah. There's a lot going on right now. Well, first of all, Big Meech is out.
Okay.
Yeah, from BMF.
Good.
Yeah. No interactions with him, I assume, over the years?
No, I've never interacted with him. I watched the show about them, but I don't really know anything about him.
Yeah, I had a very brief interaction with him. But, I did interview a lot of BMF people along the way, from J-Bo to Blue Da Vinci back in the day to a bunch of other guys. So, it's about to be crazy, especially with the show being what it is.
Okay.
But here's something that you do know about. Diddy.
For sure.
Yes. Diddy is currently facing life in prison. He's charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, and kidnapping. He, of course, has pleaded not guilty. What is surprising is that he didn't get bail. He didn't get a bond. Does that surprise you at all?
It didn't surprise me that he did not get bail because he has been actively tampering with witnesses, actively reaching out to witnesses and, presumably threatening them or asking them or bribing them to not. And I think the government rightly felt like this is a huge flight risk, for given what he's facing and the amount of money he has. Despite the recognizance, might he try to get on a plane or a submarine or something?
Tunnel?
Yeah, if you're facing life in prison, and you have a ton of money, how could you not? How could you not want to abscond?
Look, I've been saying this for months. If I was Diddy and I knew something like this was coming down the line, I would go buy a round-trip ticket to Russia and not use the return ticket.
Well,
I would just stay there.
I think part of the story is that he clearly did not judge the situation as it was coming to him. The game was going in a certain direction, and for various reasons, he could not see where it was going. I think almost anyone would see Cassie is privately making a lot of noise between my lawyer and her lawyer, right? And this is she's alleging a lot of things. She's asking for a lot of money in the real world, but not a lot of money to me, right? $30 million is not a ton to Puff. It's a ton to 99% of the population, but not to him.
30 million cash is a ton even to Puff.
It clearly was not a problem,
No,
right?
listen,
If you're going to pay it,
30 million is a lot.
if you're going to pay it the day after it becomes known, you should have paid it yesterday.
Well,
You had the money,
well, he did have the money, yes.
and you could have staved off all of this. You could have changed the whole trajectory.
Correct.
Of just getting rid of the lawsuit. I'm not saying that justice is being served in the situation, but the way that the game was going, lots of people had things that they wanted to say about Puffy, but were afraid to say them. Cassie was showing courage, but she was like, I will go away for $30 million. I think 99% of us would see, I got $1 billion. Let me just pay her and keep it quiet. But I think there's two big things that are sort of explain why not. This is a person who'd been surrounded by enablers for a long time. So nobody around him is giving him a critical eye to say, like, no, we shouldn't do that. He's dealing with at least 15 years of drug abuse, so he's not thinking clearly at all. But I think there's also a long-term sense of invincibility and, let's call it, leader privilege. He's been the boss of every situation he's been in since his early 20s, where you are basically living like a king, where everybody who interacts with you relies on you for their employment. And people who were around him for a long time talked about, they noticed that the inner circle had gone from people who might say, hey, I'm not sure that's the way we should do things. Maybe we should try something else. I have different ideas, to yes men and women. So, and that goes down to even like your attorneys, right? So you have attorneys who are not saying, hey, we should just pay this. Like the balance, the math is just pay it. And if he pays Cassie and her thing never becomes loud, many of the other people remain, it's too hard for them to come forward. And the whole story goes differently. And, you know, I think there's a lot of people who love to involve the Illuminati or the specter of the Illuminati as a way of understanding these stories.
Right.
And there's this thing going around about how, well, this is really about Puff standing up to Diageo,
right,
or
which is ridiculous.
Ciroc standing up to Diageo.
Yeah.
It's completely ridiculous. Puff does not own Ciroc.
Yeah.
Right? But also, this isn't about some wealthy liquor person made a call to somebody in the DOJ. No, Cassie's lawsuit was written about in detail in the New York Times and every other newspaper that matters. And you don't think that people at the DOJ were like, did you see this story? Oh my God, I just read 5 serious crimes in the first paragraph. Like
that is true. There's a lot of crimes,
Jack,
in that lawsuit.
I want you to dive into this story, see what's there.
Yeah.
And this is a potentially career-making moment for Jack at the DOJ.
100%.
This is about Cassie being heard from the law offices of Sean Combs to the DOJ, right? And you know, it's interesting how these things sort of loop together. It was explained to me that in Kim Porter passing, Puff was so distraught that he was distracted from every other part of his life. And because of that, Cassie was able to get away from him and fairly quickly get into a very serious, committed relationship and become pregnant and start planning a wedding. So now she is off on a whole other life. She goes to rehab. She goes to therapy. she finds the courage to say what she really believes. And she is encouraged to speak out, because so many therapists are like, say your truth, right? Own your truth. Then she's like, I'm going to write a book and tell everything you did. And her speaking out then breaks the dam. And the amount of stories that we have heard about Puff is absolutely insane. You start to wonder, how could he have had enough time in the day
to do music or
to
movies?
be constantly running around, mistreating people, plus making music, plus, I mean, I don't, it does seem like a one-man crime wave.